So now the BRICS can say to the Western world, to the US, to Britain, to Europe, yes, they are our commodities, but it's your problem if you can't get them or if you have to pay more for them. Sunday, July 6, 2025, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. I'm trying this for the first time, really. Walk and talk. A little bit like the Duran, Alex from the Duran. He's got his own channel. He does this a lot. And I'm in Switzerland. We're here for summer holidays. We're seeing family. So it's going to be a bit trickier to do my live streams and videos, but I'm still going to do it. Live stream, unfortunately, today. There won't be any, and probably not even next Sunday because we'll still be here. But yeah, you got to be flexible sometimes. As you can see, it's a beautiful, beautiful day here. I'm walking on a gravel path in a valley here in Switzerland. The weather's really nice. But anyway, what I want to talk about today is the BRICS. There's been relatively little talk about the BRICS summit. That starts today, actually, in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and ends tomorrow, so July 6th and 7th. And there's been a lot of talk that BRICS is falling apart, mainly because President Putin won't be there. But he wasn't there, I think, in the previous summit in South Africa because of arrest warrants that the International Court still has on him. So maybe that's why he's not going to Rio again. And also President Xi of China is not going, supposedly for scheduling conflict. He's sending the premier of China. So what do I think of what's going on with BRICS? Well, I think BRICS are here to stay, and BRICS, it's a different organization. It's not like a G7, closely knit Western countries. This is more, yeah, I was reading something here from a Swiss website that BRICS is more like a conglomerate that's held up together by different interests. And one of the main interests is that the developing nations, the global south, they want to be more independent. They want to do away with 250 years of colonial or Western power. And that's the main driver, I think. And what about Brazil? Because Brazil, they're hosting the summit. Brazil is the B in BRICS. Of course, I was born in Brazil, haven't lived there for decades, but Brazil has very close relationships with the United States and Europe. Well, a big majority of Brazilians are of European descent. Brazil's been doing a lot of business. Well, it started out in the early 1800s with the British, and after World War II is more with the Americans, and that's going to continue. But Brazil, I think, is doing something that's pretty interesting. They're keeping one foot in the West and another foot in the East. And I think Brazil will benefit from that. I'm not saying Brazil is going to be the next superpower. I doubt it. My dad used to say that when he was young. His dad used to say, oh, I've been told that Brazil is the country of the future, and it always seems to be. But just turn around here so you can have a look at the mountains. So that's where I am right now. To my right, there's a major road here, so you might hear some of the cars going by. In the winter, this place here that I'm walking through is all full of snow. You can go cross-country skiing here. Of course, you can go skiing up in the mountains to alpine skiing or downhill skiing. But anyways, back to Brazil. Yeah, I think Brazil is doing the right thing. They're being like putting both feet, one foot in the West, one foot in BRICS. And they've got a lot of natural resources. China is exploiting that. They're importing loads of soybean now from Brazil because of the tariff war with the US. So I think that's going to continue. And talking about China and the BRICS, I'm going to come to a story I saw today in the FT about China and natural resources. I want to talk a little bit about also now, I'm going off tangent a little bit, but I think in the end it isn't really, is about the United States and this July 4th weekend, Independence Day. And I was thinking about things. How can a country or any nation, and I'm not having to go at the US because most nations now are in debt up to here. How can a nation be independent if every child and adult in the US is carrying $400,000 of debt created by the bankers? That just doesn't gel. To me, that's not independence, that's dependence. So, yes, the Declaration of Independence, great document. All men are created equal, and that we all have to pursue liberty, property, pursuit of happiness, and all that, and I agree with that. And most people don't realize, though, that the Constitution of the United States, which was signed in 1787, got very little to do with the Declaration of Independence. And prior to the Constitution, you had the Articles of Confederation. And that didn't allow for a centralized central bank. The states were in charge of taxation and monetary policy, so to speak. There were no legal tender laws. That only came in 1862, I think, during the Civil War. Yes, they did set up the first Bank of North America, which was a private bank in Philadelphia. That was the response to the Articles of Confederation. But I think the federal Constitution, 1787, I've looked up on ChatGPT and DeepSeek, and I asked, is the Federal Reserve Act constitutional? And most of them say that it was, and there's some cases, legal cases, that allow the federal government to take over the regulation and the coining of the money. And I would add, though, that the Federal Reserve doesn't coin money. Yeah, because coining money is minting gold and silver coins. So on this 4th of July weekend, I think it's more important than ever to realize that I personally, and I'm not an American, but I've studied American history a great deal, and I think that Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, is a great concept for the whole world. And of course, you can't impose that on people. You got to lead by example, and then people will follow. But that's been trampled on, unfortunately, by the current Constitution. And the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 is detrimental to the freedom of not just Americans, but everyone around the world. So what's the solution? Well, maybe the solution is what we're seeing in Florida and Texas and some other states, where they're bringing in new state bills to make gold and silver legal tender again. In an ideal world, you wouldn't need legal tender. You'd use whatever you want as money, because legal tender is the government telling you what to use as money. And I don't think that's good either. But I think this movement by the states in the US from the grassroots is a good thing. So the BRICS, they're doing the same thing. They don't want to be controlled by the Federal Reserve and the Western financial organizations like the World Bank and the IMF, and that's why they're setting up new institutions for BRICS. Yes, China, of course, is going to be very powerful, and it's already very powerful, not just in BRICS, but overall. But one thing I wanted to talk about China, and this has got to do more with natural resources and commodities. As I said earlier, I read an article in the FT. Chinese companies, they've bought the most or the biggest value of dollars commodity companies, mining companies, in over 10 years in 2024. So they're scouring the planet for natural resources. They are, of course, the biggest processors of things like rare earth metals, but they need the natural resources from other countries as well. And they are out competing the West, and they're in a rush right now because Canada and the United States are getting more and more, there's more and more animosity towards Chinese investments. So a few years ago, we spoke about Zoltan Pozsar, the guy who worked for the New York Fed and Credit Suisse. And about 3 years ago, he said that commodities were going to be the big thing, and he's been right. In the old days, when Nixon closed the gold window back in the early 70s, there's a story about a finance ministers meeting in Europe, and one of the ministers told John Connolly, the Secretary of the Treasury, that they were concerned about the dollar being devalued so much. And John Connolly told him, well, the dollar is our currency, but it's your problem. And Zoltan Pozsar said that that's gone out the window now. The problem for the West is commodities. The BRICS nations, and that includes, I think, 11 permanent members now, which includes Saudi Arabia. Some people were not sure about Saudi Arabia, but from what I've seen, they are there now. And there's more countries that want to join. But it's 40% of world GDP and 45% of the population. And they've got massive natural resource base of the BRICS countries. So now the BRICS can say to the Western world, to the US, to Britain, to Europe, yes, they are our commodities, but it's your problem if you can't get them, or if you have to pay more for them. So I think this is the world we're moving into. The move away from financialization that we've seen, or we saw, from the early 80s up until 2020, where the world moved on basically just credit and refinancing, bond markets, hedge funds. Yes, these are still going to be around, but in relative terms, real things are going to become a lot more important. So that's what I see evolving from BRICS. I think it's going to take a long time for them to, well, maybe not so long, but it's not going to be like on Monday. They're not going to have a new monetary system up and running right away. But China, Russia, and even Brazil, I spoke to Nomi Prince some months ago. She was in Rio last year, and Brazil is highly advanced in digital technology and cryptocurrency. Not that I like those things, but this is what's happening. Brazil is a big leader in that, and I think with the Russians and Chinese, they're going to be involved in that. They might even get involved with the US. That's the way the Brazilians work. I think in Brazil, most of the business elite is very pro-US. There might be also some business elite that is pro-BRICS, people that are more involved in the natural resource space, commodities. So that's the way I see things. And what else? Yeah, so as I said, no live stream tonight, but hopefully I'm going to be doing a lot more of these. So this is really nice now because it's 10 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. There's very few people walking here, so I've been able to have a little disturbance. People are probably going to be out here more in the afternoon. And I also did an interview the other day from Switzerland with Mark Faber, where he talks about investments, for example, and he thinks Latin America, and a big chunk of that, of course, is Brazil, is heavily undervalued, and Europe as well is undervalued, and that commodities are the next big thing. So I'm going to put a link to that interview up here in the cards, and you can listen to it. It's always fun to speak to Mark Faber. Well, he's Swiss, of course, but he's been in the Far East, I think, for almost 50 years. I did see him last November when I went to the precious metals mining conference in Zurich. He's a really nice guy. He's getting a little older. We were set up to meet on Zoom, and I think he fell asleep. So I had to wait for him. But anyway, hopefully I'll be doing a lot more of these. Let me know if you enjoy these walk and talk, so to speak, and let me know about the quality of the picture and of the volume. I'm using this Rode microphone, wireless. So it's a nice Bernese dog here coming up. Maybe I'll keep walking and you might see him. So there you go. Gootsie. There he is. He's walking with the owners. Yeah, as I said, Rudy, he's been very well looked after. We really wanted to bring him, but it's just not convenient to fly, and not nice on him to fly, and all the travel. But it would be great to have him here. He'd love it here. And later on today, we're going to my brother-in-law's mom. It's her birthday, so we're going for a big lunch for her birthday. I think she's 88. That's my mom's age. And anyway, I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.